A service disconnect is required between the meter and the transfer switch when using a whole house generator with an automatic transfer switch. Even though the transfer switch can isolate the utility power from the generator power, it does not provide the same level of safety as a dedicated service disconnect. A service disconnect allows for the entire electrical system to be de-energized for servicing or emergencies. While a service entrance rated transfer switch can handle the full electrical load of the building, it still does not eliminate the need for a separate service disconnect. This is due to two main reasons: firstly, safety, and secondly, code requirements. The service disconnect provides a convenient and accessible point to cut off all power to the building, even when the transfer switch is in the generator mode. Most electrical codes require a service disconnect to be installed between the meter and the transfer switch. The service disconnect should be installed firstly on the line side of the transfer switch, before any other electrical equipment, secondly, in a readily accessible location outside the building, and thirdly, rated for the full electrical load of the building. Regardless of the type of transfer switch used, a service disconnect is an essential safety and code requirement for whole house generator installations. It provides a convenient and safe way to de-energize the electrical system during maintenance or emergencies. Consider the function of a service disconnect. It's designed to completely cut off electrical power to a building or specific electrical system. This ability is crucial for safety during maintenance, repairs, or emergency situations like a fire. Imagine a scenario where an electrician needs to work on the electrical panel. Without a service disconnect, they'd have to rely solely on the transfer switch to isolate the power. However, a dedicated service disconnect provides a guaranteed and easily accessible point to energize the entire system, minimizing the risk of electrical shock. Even if the transfer switch malfunctions or is in the generator mode, the service disconnect remains a reliable safety measure. Now, let's look at the implications of a service entrance rated transfer switch. A service entrance rated transfer switch is built to handle the full electrical load of a building. This means it's designed to withstand the voltage and amperage demands of all the appliances, lighting, and other electrical equipment in the building. While this is certainly an important feature, it doesn't negate the need for a separate service disconnect. The service entrance rating primarily addresses the transfer switch's ability to manage the electrical load during normal operation and power outages. It doesn't change the fundamental requirement for a readily accessible and dedicated means of disconnecting all power for safety purposes. Consider the perspective of an electrical inspector. They are tasked with ensuring that electrical installations meet the requirements of the National Electrical Code or other applicable local codes. These codes typically mandate the installation of a service disconnect to provide a safe and reliable means of de-energizing the electrical system. The presence of a service entrance rated transfer switch doesn't automatically satisfy this requirement. The inspector will still look for separate, clearly labeled service disconnect that meets the code specifications. It is important to understand the considerations for installing the service disconnect. The location of the service disconnect is critical for its effectiveness. It should be installed on the line side of the transfer switch, meaning it's connected between the meter and the transfer switch. This ensures that the service disconnect can cut off power to the entire electrical system, including the transfer switch itself. Furthermore, the service disconnect should be installed in a readily accessible location outside the building. This allows emergency responders, such as firefighters, to quickly and easily de-energize the building's electrical system in case of a fire or other emergency. The disconnect must be rated for the full electrical load of the building. This means it must be able to safely handle the maximum amount of current that the building's electrical system is designed to draw. Using a disconnect that is not properly rated could lead to overheating, damage to the disconnect, and potentially a fire hazard. The electrical codes often specify the type and size of service disconnect required based on the building's electrical service. Consider a residential installation with a 200 amp service. The service disconnect would need to be rated for at least 200 amps and would typically be a circuit breaker or a fuse disconnect switch. In a commercial building with a larger electrical service, the service disconnect could be a larger fuse disconnect switch or a circuit breaker panel designed for service entrance applications. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer to determine the appropriate type and size of service disconnect for a particular installation. The service disconnect ensures that regardless of the transfer switch, you can cut off all power to the building when needed. Electrical codes provide a comprehensive set of rules and regulations governing the safe installation and operation of electrical systems. These codes are designed to protect people and property from electrical hazards. Many electrical codes specifically require a service disconnect to be installed between the meter and the transfer switch in a whole house generator installation. These requirements are based on the understanding that a dedicated service disconnect provides a critical safety function that cannot be fully replicated by the transfer switch alone. Local electrical codes may have additional requirements or interpretations regarding service disconnects in generator installations. It's essential to consult with the local authorities or a qualified electrician to ensure compliance with all applicable codes. There are several types of service disconnects that can be used in generator installations. The most common types include circuit breakers, fuse disconnect switches, and safety switches. Circuit breakers are automatic devices that interrupt the flow of electricity in the event of an overload or short circuit. They are commonly used as service disconnects in residential and small commercial installations. Fuse disconnect switches use fuses to protect the electrical system from overcurrents. They provide a visible indication of a blown fuse, making it easier to identify and replace faulty fuses. Safety switches are manually operated switches that provide a visible break in the electrical circuit. They are commonly used as service disconnects in industrial and commercial applications where a more robust and reliable disconnect is required. Regardless of the type of service disconnect used, it should be clearly labeled to indicate its function and location. This helps to ensure that anyone who needs to de-energize the electrical system can quickly and easily locate the service disconnect. Proper labeling is especially important in emergency situations where time is of the essence. Regular inspection and maintenance of the service disconnect are essential to ensure its continued functionality and safety. The disconnect should be inspected periodically for signs of damage, corrosion, or overheating. Any problems should be addressed promptly by a qualified electrician. The service disconnect should also be tested periodically to ensure that it is functioning properly. This can be done by manually operating the disconnect to verify that it effectively cuts off power to the electrical system. Whole house generators provide a valuable source of backup power during power outages. However, it's essential to install these generators safely and in compliance with all applicable electrical codes. The service disconnect is a critical component of a safe and compliant generator installation. By understanding the purpose, requirements, and installation considerations for service disconnects, one can ensure that their generator system is properly protected and safe to operate. Failure to install a service disconnect when required can have serious consequences. It can increase the risk of electrical shock or fire, and it can also result in code violations and potential fines. In some cases, the local utility company may refuse to connect a generator system that does not have a properly installed service disconnect. If one is unsure about the requirements for service disconnects in their area, it's always best to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector. They can provide guidance on the applicable codes and ensure that the generator system is installed safely and in compliance with all regulations. The functionality of a service disconnect provides a fundamental layer of electrical safety. Whether it is a manually operated safety switch or a circuit breaker, the main function remains constant to de-energize the electrical system entirely. In homes, businesses, or industrial settings, these disconnects serve as the first line of defense against electrical hazards during repairs, maintenance, and emergency situations. Let us consider the importance of ease of access for service disconnects. Electrical codes typically mandate that service disconnects are located in readily accessible areas, usually outdoors. This ensures that first responders, such as firefighters, can quickly shut off power to a building during an emergency, minimizing the risk of electrical shock and preventing further damage. The service disconnect also plays a key role in routine electrical work. For example, before replacing a circuit breaker or working on the main electrical panel, an electrician will use a service disconnect to energize the entire system. This ensures that the electrician can work safely without the risk of coming into contact with live wires. Service disconnects come in different shapes and sizes, depending on the specific electrical requirements of the building. Small homes may only require a single disconnect, while larger buildings with multiple electrical panels may have several disconnects. Regardless of size, service disconnects must be properly rated to handle the maximum electrical load of the building. Using an undersized disconnect can lead to overheating and potentially cause a fire. It's crucial to have the correct type of disconnect installed by a licensed electrician. The use of a service entrance rated transfer switch does not eliminate the need for a separate service disconnect. This is because the transfer switch primarily functions to switch between the utility power and the generator power. While some transfer switches have built-in overcurrent protection, they do not provide the same level of safety as a dedicated service disconnect. The service disconnect is a separate device specifically designed to shut off all power to the building. Many transfer switches do not break the neutral conductor when switching between power sources. A service disconnect will typically break all conductors, including the neutral, providing a complete separation from the power source. Regular inspection and maintenance of the service disconnect is necessary to ensure that it is functioning correctly. The disconnect should be checked for any signs of damage, such as cracks or corrosion, and it should be tested periodically to make sure that it can effectively cut off power to the building. If any problems are found, the disconnect should be repaired or replaced by a qualified electrician. It is important to know that the use of a qualified electrician is extremely important during the installation of a service disconnect. Electrical work can be dangerous and should only be performed by someone with the proper training and experience. A qualified electrician will be able to install the disconnect safely and correctly, ensuring that it meets all applicable electrical codes. Failure to follow the code during the installation of the service disconnect can result in serious penalties. Electrical codes are in place to protect people and property from electrical hazards, and violations can lead to fines, lawsuits, and even criminal charges. A proper understanding of the electrical codes is essential to ensuring a safe electrical system.